Today we're going to talk about 5 things that most autistics don't know about autism. This video may entirely change your perspective about what autism is. It just got real.
Oh, wow.
Howdy, welcome to the Autistic Page. I'm David Page. I'm a pathological demand avoidant autistic and ADHD. Today we're going to talk about 5 things that most autistics don't know about autism. Let's get into it. Number 1, autistic people don't necessarily overshare. Now, yes, we can definitely hurt people's feelings and so forth, but I often, and I've been guilty of this myself, said, well, I overshared. But did you really? You see, if you were talking to an autistic person and you said that same exact thing in that same exact circumstance, would they think that you've overshared? Has that ever happened to you once? Has an autistic person speaking to you, if you're an autistic, ever overshared? Probably not. The reason for this is it's a difference in communication. So really, if we talk about oversharing, it's really very, very subjective upon who the person that is hearing whatever is said. And you could talk to 10 autistic people, say the same thing, that autistic people being those who are not autistic, and say the same thing, and only one of them might be offended or have their feelings hurt or what have you. But more than likely, if it's an autistic, it's not going to hurt their feelings at all, because we communicate differently and we understand each other differently. And frankly, autistic people just aren't liable to be so touchy about everything. Number 2, people who are not autistic, that is, autistic people, have developmental impairments. They definitely have communication deficits. That is, when they're saying a sentence, the words are not important at all. It's the idea that they're trying to communicate to another person. Whereas with an autistic person, the words are very, very important, and we speak very, very literally. So when we speak literally, they're trying to figure out what we really mean. We really mean what we say. Whereas with autistic people, the words aren't important. They're trying to communicate an idea. And so this is really a true communication deficit, because they just don't say what they mean. Autistic people have an impaired ability to reason, an impaired ability to use logic compared to autistic people. Autistic people tend to be very logically minded, whereas autistic people just don't work that much in that side of the brain as autistic people. So their ability to reason is fairly limited compared to autistic people. Not to say that they can't do everything and anything, it's just that they don't quite have the abilities that autistic people normally do. Autistic people have a very, very difficult time processing facts and information that they don't like. If it is not pleasant to them, they are likely to deny that, and it could even be to the point of death. It is a very autistic trait that autistic people don't tend to have as much. We tend to want to know exactly what the facts are and accept them as they are, whether we like them or not, and then we deal with it accordingly. Whereas autistic people just have a much harder time doing that. Autistic people also have a social dependency. Now, as a species, we are all social animals, and it's very important that we socialize, but autistic people tend to obsess on this and actually have a deep down need for social interaction that autistic people, yes, we do have needs for social interaction, but it is not a necessity. We can do without it and function properly far more easily than autistic people are even capable of. So let's not forget that autistic people, that is, people who are not autistic, definitely do have a lot of impairments of their own. Number 3, intellectual developmental impairment is not autism. They are different things because people can be intellectually, developmentally impaired and not be autistic. The reason for this is when autism was first described, it was exclusive to the intellectually, developmentally impaired, which we know that is not the case now. And so while there is a much higher propensity for autistic people to be intellectually, developmentally impaired, they are two different things. So developmental impairments should not at all be part of the autistic diagnosis, in my opinion. Number 4, we may not know that we're autistic. Most adults probably in the world today that are autistic are not diagnosed. The reason is the autism diagnosis was only directed towards children. And children grow up and we're still autistic. So now the entire world is actually trying to catch up with diagnosing adult autistics. Now, another reason for this is I was 50 when I discovered I was autistic. Why didn't I realize I had the impairments, the sensitivities and so forth? Well, when I was sensitive about something like the light, I was just told as a kid, deal with it. And if I complained about it, I would get in a lot of trouble. I literally had eye contact beat out of me, or into me rather. So a lot of these things we are forced to cover up or to mask. And so because we've masked all of our lives and been afraid to show our autistic traits, afraid to be who we are, we don't even realize that we're covering it up ourselves. And so we actually think that we're allistic, we're not autistic. And so it's very, very difficult in a lot of cases for a person to actually even realize that they're autistic, like myself. Number 5. Autism is absolutely, completely normal. Let's take a look at redheads. You see, redheads, anthropologists believe, have been around for, and it's really up to a debate, but about 20,000 to possibly 100,000 years. That's a very, very short time in natural history, obviously. So redheads were actually fairly new to the scene. Now they make up about 1% of the world's population. So if you take a random sample of people around the world, you would expect in a normal circumstance for 1% of them to be autistic. So 1 in 100, or excuse me, to be redheads. So that'd be 1 in 100 people. In the same way, autistics are 1% of the population. The difference being, many scientists think that we may have had autism as a species before we were even humans. There are also scientists that believe that autism may be displayed in animals. So autism as a human characteristic has been with us for a very, very long time. Longer than that of redheads. And do we consider redheads to be abnormal or different or special or anything like that because they're redheads? No. They're what we expect to see from a normal population sample. And the same is true for autistics. We are not abnormal. We are not unusual. We are perfectly normal human beings that we would expect to see from a normal sample of human beings throughout human history as far as we know. So we are normal, a normal 1% of the population, just like redheads. There is zero difference. So this video has come from a very different perspective of autism, my perspective. I would like to know in the comments where you think I'm spot on or where I'm completely off, or any additional things that you might want to add. This is David Page. Screw them, flap harder.